Okay, good afternoon and welcome. That was quick, thank you. My name is Jocelyn Young. I'm the CEO of the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade, the region's leading voice for business and economic growth. And I want to thank you for attending today's State of BC Transportation Update with Minister Mike Farnworth. Today we'll dive into the Minister's vision for the future of our transit and infrastructure with a specific lens on how these projects will impact Surrey, White Rock, and our neighboring communities. This is a unique opportunity to see exactly how these regional investments serve as the backbone for BC's broader economic success. I'd like to begin in a good way by acknowledging that we are on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, Coquitlam, Kakite, Semiahmoo, and Tsawwassen First Nations. As well, I acknowledge the Inuit and Métis Nations people who live and work on these territories. Today would not be possible without the support of our wonderful sponsors. Now, for those of you who do not know how we thank our sponsors, it's my pleasure to introduce you to the one clap method. This really tests your agility, your ability to collaborate with your partners at the tables next to you, and just see if you're paying attention. And it's more fun for me, frankly. So, what I'll do is I'll say the category and then the name of the sponsor, and then you clap in unison. And some of the sponsor names are long, so listen carefully. We have our presenting sponsor, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. Okay, pretty good. We're warming up. We have our community sponsors, CN, Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association. Great. And our pillar partners, Aspira Retirement Living, Focus College, and the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan by SNF Group Benefits. I really need to get them to change their name. That's a long one. We also have some special guests in the audience. Please stand as I call your name, and again, let's do the one clap method. And I'm having you stand so people know where you are so they can come and talk to you. We have some long titles though, so sorry about that. We can blame the Premier, I don't know. Okay, we have Jessie Sunner, Minister of Post-Secondary Education and Future Skills of British Columbia and MLA for Surrey Newton. There we go. Amna Shah, Parliamentary Secretary for Anti-Racism Initiatives and Mental Health and Addictions and MLA for Surrey City Centre. Oh, we are listening. This is good. We have Gary Begg, Parliamentary Secretary for Surrey Infrastructure and MLA for Surrey Guildford. Her Worship, the Mayor of Surrey, Brenda Locke. City of Surrey Councillors Linda Annis, Pardeep Kunar, and Rob Stutt. And City of Surrey Councillor Bill, City of White Rock Councillor Bill Lawrence. I know. Okay, so we also have some of our Board of Directors in the audience. We have Rory Morgan, Board Chair, KSW Lawyers. Roger Steers, Vice Chair, RJC Engineers. Harp Kella, Kella Real Estate Group. Gurjinder Burji, Signature Real Estate Group. And is Sasha here? No, then we don't get to announce Sasha. We'll tell him. Nope, no claps if you're not here. We also have one of our board governors, who is an individual who's served previously as board chair, and Dr. Greg Thomas. I just call him Dr. Greg. It's fun for me. And our fellow Chamberlain colleagues, we have Scott Wheatley, Executive Director, Cloverdale Chamber. There he is back there. And Jen Temple, President of the Cloverdale District Chamber of Commerce. And Interim Secretary of the new Westminster Chamber of Commerce, Alicia Kerr. Where's Alicia? I saw you earlier. Hi. Okay. The Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade is an independent nonprofit organization and serves as the concierge of connections for our business communities, delivering a diversified service portfolio of business development, support for international trade, government advocacy, and workforce development. We help businesses grow and succeed. We connect people, offer vital resources, and actively push for policies that ensure Surrey and White Rock continue to be the leading cities to live, work, and invest. We are proud to be a powerful, unifying voice for businesses of all sizes and sectors across the region. Part of being that voice means bringing the right data to the table. This brings us to the results of our latest Surrey Roads survey. These findings outline the critical transportation priorities for our business community and will inform our conversation with Minister Farnworth today. Let's look at what the numbers are telling us. Okay. Oops. So, this survey captures the real day-to-day experiences of businesses and commuters across Surrey and how people are getting to work, how they're moving throughout the day, and most importantly, how transportation challenges are impacting operations and economic productivity. What makes this data especially important is that it reflects the voice of the business community. These are the lived realities of employers, employees, and industries that rely on efficient and reliable transportation networks to function. By understanding these challenges, travel patterns, and infrastructure needs, the Board of Trade can focus our advocacy where it matters most for our members. And we don't stop there. We share these findings with the city to support their planning and help guide decision-making. In my regular meetings with Mayor Locke, we discuss many issues facing residents and the business community. I appreciate these conversations and ones like we'll have with Minister Farnworth today because they move us toward better outcomes for everyone. I also really appreciate the City of Surrey staff, especially in the transportation team, who've worked with us for 10 years to create this survey. This year's survey reached businesses not just in Surrey, but also in White Rock and the broader Metro Vancouver region. We heard from a wide range of sectors, including professional services, real estate, finance and insurance, manufacturing, and healthcare. Most of the businesses that responded are small to mid-sized. About 22% have between 1 and 5 employees, 20% have 11 to 50 employees, and another 10% or less have between 51 to 100 employees. This is in line with what we know about the business community in Canada, with 98% being SMEs. When we asked about commuting challenges, 3 issues stood out. First, many respondents told us that transit coverage in Surrey is limited. Second, transit service hours don't always meet the needs of commuters. And finally, ongoing road construction continues to disrupt travel across the city. And sorry to our friends who do support all of this work in the city and broader region, we just want more, okay? We always will want more. We know that we're trying though. Driving continues to be the primary mode of transportation, and when we asked respondents how they get to work, 82% said that they drive their own vehicles. Guilty as charged. Transit use is much lower at just 7%, and even fewer walk, cycle, or carpool. Part of this is because many workers travel for business, visiting clients, or moving between multiple sites, which makes having a personal vehicle essential. Our survey also shows that nearly half of respondents spend 1 to 2 hours driving during the workday, not including their commute, and 19% spend 3 hours or more. I hope those folks have a really good playlist going. Most of this travel happens within Surrey and the South Fraser region, and even though transit service and routes have expanded, we're still not where we want to be, and removing the reliance on personal vehicles, especially in a city as large and spread out as Surrey. That's why future transportation planning can't just focus only on transit. It also needs to make roads, connections, and reliability work for all people, from students to executives and everyone in between. In 2026, 48% of respondents report not working from home at all, up from 41% in previous years. I was very much interested in the trends in the work from home movement. Our office is all in office, or I would say most people work from the office, but we're looking at going into a hybrid model. And we're seeing some reversals in some cases for certain businesses. This shows a post-pandemic shift, with many workers, especially in trades, operations, and service roles, returning to full-time on-site work. Hybrid work is still happening for some, but fewer people are working remotely full-time, down from 23% in 2023 to just 13% this year, despite a small rebound in 2025. From a transportation perspective, these trends tell us that hybrid work may reduce peak demands slightly on certain days, but it hasn't fundamentally changed the need for improved transportation infrastructure. Most workers are still commuting regularly and in some cases multiple times a day, so reliable roads and strong regional connectivity remain essential for our workforce and economy. So moving to impacts to business operations. Congestion continues to have a major impact on businesses in Surrey. Up from last year, over 80% of respondents say traffic affects their operations, and about 1/4 describe that impact as major. This is one of the clearest findings in our survey, and not surprising given how fast our city is growing. Congestion affects businesses in multiple ways. It increases travel time between job sites, causes delivery delays, drives up operating costs, reduces workforce productivity, and creates some scheduling challenges. For industries that rely on traveling throughout the day, congestion isn't just an inconvenience, it points to a stressed transportation system directly affecting business performance and competitiveness. Our top 3 road corridors that require improvements. When we asked about top priorities for road corridor improvements, 3 projects stood out. 40% of respondents said widening the 152nd Street overpass at Highway 99 to 4 lanes should come first. That's consistent with what we heard last year. Next, 38% prioritized widening 16th Avenue from Highway 99 to 192nd Street, and 30% highlighted the need for a new interchange at 24th Avenue and Highway 99. These results highlight the corridors that businesses and commuters say need the most immediate attention. We also asked respondents to rank intersections that need the most improvement. Topping the list is 104th Avenue and 152nd Street. Second is Nordell Way and 120th Street. And third is 104th Avenue and 156th Street. All 3 are along major regional corridors and are well-known congestion points, highlighting where targeted improvements could have the biggest impact on traffic flow and business operations. Looking at regional crossings, 44% of respondents use the Stalawassam Bridge monthly and 15% use it weekly. Who here has gone over the new bridge? And we made it across safely. That was a good thing. You weren't as scared, were you? Okay. With the new bridge fully open this year, we'll be able to track whether usage grows compared to the old bridge. When asked to share feedback about the Stalawassam Bridge, submissions largely expressed that it should have been a minimum of 6 lanes to ease congestion. Not a new conversation for us here. For the George Massey Tunnel, 51% use it monthly and 16% weekly. And when asked about the province's plan for an 8-lane replacement tunnel by 2030, 61% supported it. But most still indicated, and they wrote this in themselves, that they would prefer a bridge instead of a tunnel. So, our recommendations this year. Based on the survey results, the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade recommends several actions to improve mobility and strengthen transportation reliability for businesses, workers, and residents. First, we need to prioritize investments that improve road network efficiency and reduce congestion. This means accelerating targeted road infrastructure projects, including intersection upgrades, corridor improvements, and congestion management measures, all aimed at making travel times more reliable for workers, service providers, and goods movement. And we are moving in the right direction. We see all the construction. We know it's happening. Second, we need to expand transit frequency and connectivity to key employment areas, such as business parks. This is something we've flagged for the Premier and our friends at TransLink. And increasing service frequency and expanding routes between residential areas and employment centers across Surrey and the South of Fraser area will give workers more practical commuting alternatives to driving. Third, we recommend strengthening regional transportation planning and coordination. Local governments across Metro Vancouver could increase collaboration to align transportation investments and planning decisions because workforce mobility and business activity often cross municipal boundaries. And overall, our survey shows that businesses and residents prioritize improvements that increase reliability, reduce congestion, and improve connectivity for both people and goods. While active transportation investments are appreciated, road network efficiency and transit accessibility are the top priorities for the business community. Finally, we need to remember that every type of commuter matters, from the student to the executive to the shift worker. Commuting happens at all times of the day, and every commuter has different needs and the ways that they use the transportation system, which of course makes it more complicated, but it's good to keep everyone in mind, not just that commute to and from work. Planning should focus on making the system work effectively for everyone that uses it so they can get where they need to go reliably and efficiently. In closing, excuse me, the 2026 Surrey Road Survey gives us a clear picture of the challenges and opportunities facing our transportation system. We've heard directly from the businesses, commuters, and residents about the impacts of congestion, the need for reliable roads, and the importance of connected transit options. The takeaway is clear: improving transportation isn't just about moving vehicles, it's about supporting our workforce, enabling businesses to thrive, and ensuring residents can get where they need to go efficiently and safely. So, at the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade, our philosophy is simple. Transportation is the heartbeat of the economy. Whether it's moving people to their jobs or moving goods to the global market, infrastructure is the foundation upon which our regional success is built. Now, please help me welcome Carmen Ortega, Manager and Senior Strategic Advisor, Government Relations, Vancouver Fraser Port Authority, to introduce our keynote speaker this afternoon. Thank you, Carmen.
Okay. Thank you, Jocelyn, and good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to be gathered here today on the traditional territories of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and other Coast Salish peoples, and I want to express my thanks to them. And a big thank you to Jocelyn and the Surrey White Rock Board of Trade for hosting this great event, as well as the excellent event with Premier Eby earlier this month, and for your partnership. It's hard to watch the news these days. The war in Iran, soaring prices at the pump, tariffs, protectionism, and a neighbor to the south that we hardly recognize. Yet, in these stressful and disorienting times, we're seeing Canadians and British Columbians rising to the challenge each and every day. Community, government, and business leaders from coast to coast, including all of you in this room, so thank you. Central to our response in Canada, trade diversification. Federally, our Prime Minister has set a bold goal to double Canadian exports to non-US markets in the next 10 years. Here in BC, the government of BC has seized the moment, challenging all of Canada to look west as the key to the path forward and our country's success. This is no small task, and what's going to be needed to be successful: a Team Canada and a Team BC approach, collective and purposeful action. We need to make more goods, mining, wood, energy products, agri-foods, machinery, equipment. We need to sell more goods and services to customers who want and need what BC and Canada makes, especially to the Indo-Pacific region, where 50% of global GDP will reside by 2040. Think about how many customers that is. And we need to move more goods to where they need to go reliably. And at the Port of Vancouver, Canada's largest port, bigger than the next 5 ports in Canada combined, we know we're going to play an outsized role. Just last week, we announced the port's 3rd consecutive record trade year. We set new records in 2025 for moving Canadian grain, potash, petroleum, vehicles, and containers through the Port of Vancouver. This momentum couldn't come at a better time for Canada, and we're stepping up to do more, to be an engine of Canada's trade diversification and a driver of over 100,000 well-paying jobs across BC, including several thousand right here in Surrey. We're getting big projects built, including the now complete Fraser Surrey Port Lands project. We are working on dredging the second Narrows, building the Hold'em Overpass in Burnaby, and of course, Roberts Bank Terminal 2 in Delta, to deliver $100 billion in new Canadian trade capacity every year. Projects that together are creating tens of thousands of additional jobs right here in BC. And we'll be depending on services and goods of BC and Canadian businesses, big and small. We're strengthening port supply chains by innovating. We're using new tools and technology to optimize existing capacity, to move products safer and faster. And we're building electrical shore power for ships. And we're doing this all in partnership with First Nations, government, and local communities. Together, we are proud to be working for all Canadians. And now, it's my honor to introduce today's speaker. He and his government are working hard to take on the biggest challenges facing British Columbians today: housing, healthcare, affordability, and securing a strong future for BC's economy in turbulent times. He was appointed the Minister of Transportation and Transit in November 2024, and under his leadership, the province is advancing integrated planning across road, rail, and marine systems, helping enable BC's trade gateways. He also serves as the Government House Leader, and prior to that, he served as Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. In his more than 3 decades in provincial politics, he has also served as Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Minister of Employment and Investment, and Minister responsible for Housing. I think you've had all the portfolios. Minister of Health and Minister responsible for Seniors, and Minister of Social Development and Economic Security. Everybody, please join me in welcoming BC's Minister of Transportation and Transit, the Honourable Mike Farnworth.
Yeah, the first time I had a cabinet portfolio, I didn't need glasses. Anyway, thank you, Carmen, for that kind introduction and reminding me just how long I have been around. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Farnworth, BC's Minister of Transportation and Transit, and I'm honored to be here today on the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples. I want to take the opportunity to thank the Surrey and White Rock Board of Trade for your leadership in growing local prosperity and championing businesses that power our province's economy. Few places in Canada are growing as quickly as the communities south of the Fraser. Surrey is on track to become the province's largest city by 2036, and White Rock continues to be a strong hub for tourism and small business. This region is more than a community, it is a gateway. It is the gateway. A corridor linking workers to jobs and Canadian goods to global markets. That's why a reliable, safe transportation system is essential to the economic success of the region, the province, and the country. The South Fraser region is experiencing exponential growth, with nearly 100,000 new residents in Surrey over the last decade alone. There are huge opportunities here, but let's also be clear about the challenges. With that rapid growth comes higher commuter volumes, more commercial traffic, and more pressure on an already busy transportation network. When roads are congested, we see the impacts firsthand. Businesses lose productivity, workers face longer commutes, and supply chains slow down for goods moving to and from ports and the border. And clearly that was borne out by the survey that we just saw. That's why my ministry is working hard to keep pace with this growth, so that people and goods can move safely, efficiently, today and into the future. Now, I'd like to take the opportunity to talk about a few specific projects that I'm excited about and are especially impactful for you, starting with the widening of Highway 1. Highway 1 is the backbone of goods movement into and out of Metro Vancouver. It connects farms, manufacturers, warehouses, and distribution centers to regional and global markets. The Fraser Valley Widening Program is adding critical capacity to the transportation network, including new interchanges for 232nd Street, 264th Street, and Highway 11. More than 57 kilometers of new HOV lanes and 7 kilometers of new truck climbing lanes. In total, the program will create approximately 24,000 direct and indirect jobs throughout its delivery. These upgrades to the highway through the Fraser Valley will keep goods moving smoothly, reduce choke points. improve travel times, and provide more predictability for carriers and shippers. For businesses, it is simple. Reliability lowers costs, supports just-in-time delivery, and strengthens competitiveness. These highway investments are designed to meet the needs of today while building capacity for decades to come. On the people mobility side, the Surrey-Langley SkyTrain extension is the first major rapid transit investment south of the Fraser in over 30 years. It's a once-in-a-generation project that will transform how people move south of the Fraser. All of you will have seen the massive progress that has been made along the alignment this past year. Major construction started in November of 2024, and by the end of 2025, the guideway foundations were more than 70% complete, and more than 40% of the station foundation piles were installed. Major progress is expected through 2026, including the start of rail installation. Construction is well on track, and every step brings us closer to linking new communities into a fully integrated, modern, rapid transit system. This new infrastructure will deliver 16 kilometers of elevated track, 8 new stations, 3 new transit exchanges with active transportation connections. And in addition to the project is also creating approximately 26,700 direct and indirect jobs through its delivery. With a short 22-minute trip from Langley City Centre to King George Station, an expanded SkyTrain connection to downtown Vancouver, it will connect communities and cut commute times. By encouraging more people to shift to more convenient and accessible transit system, it will reduce congestion on major corridors such as the Fraser Highway and Highway 1. This will benefit commercial vehicles by easing congestion where trucks need reliable access. It's not just a transit project. It is very much an economic project, one that supports employers, employees, local businesses by making daily travel more predictable and more efficient. Last month, the new Stolo-Awesome Bridge fully opened to the public. This major achievement relieves one of the region's busiest bottlenecks with wider, modern lanes for safer vehicle traffic, better connections on both sides of the river, and improved reliability for commuters, commercial traffic, and emergency response. Through its delivery, this project has generated approximately 7,300 direct and indirect jobs. It's also been a meaningful example of partnership with First Nations. The name shared by the Kwantlen First Nation and Musqueam Indian Band reflects our commitment to building infrastructure with respect and collaboration. Another important project is the Fraser River Tunnel. Early construction work is underway on the Fraser River Tunnel, which will see a new toll-free 8-lane tunnel constructed to replace the aging George Massey Tunnel. This work, which began in January with tree clearing, will allow us to move straight into the major construction phase once the environmental assessment certificate is approved, which is expected to be later this year. This early work will include ground improvements, construction of a casting basin, and temporary infrastructure including marine jetties and construction of an access trestle connecting to Dease Island, creating around 200 jobs this year alone. The province is in final negotiations with its contractor on a design-build agreement. And importantly, this project will deliver modern, resilient infrastructure, including better transit and cycling connections, improving reliability and safety on a critical link in our regional network. For commuters, carriers, and emergency responders, the new tunnel will mean a more dependable corridor with reduced delays and higher capacity to handle the region's growth, and critically, a more reliable trade gateway. The new tunnel will improve travel time consistency for commercial carriers serving the region's ports, border crossings, and industrial centers. By eliminating a major bottleneck, this project will strengthen supply chain reliability, reduce transportation costs for exporters and importers, and support the efficient movement of goods that underpin our province's competitiveness in global markets. Of course, I'm Transportation Minister. I love talking about all the great work being done in my ministry, of which there's a significant amount. But I also want to touch briefly on a few other things that are important to this region, to south of the Fraser, and Surrey in particular. We're making a major investment in the future of healthcare in Surrey by committing $521 million to build a new School of Medicine at SFU's Surrey Central Campus. Located at a major transit hub, the project will draw more businesses and increase foot traffic, helping to stimulate economic growth in Surrey's downtown core. We've also committed $2.9 billion to a new Surrey hospital and integrated cancer center. The facility will include 168 additional inpatient beds and an expanded emergency department, surgical suites, and a new laboratory. Expected to open in 2029, the hospital will reduce pressure on emergency services and improve access to care for people south of Fraser. This coincides with the work that we're doing to strengthen the healthcare workforce. Just yesterday, we've announced that Fraser Health Authority have hired 78 new nurses, 22 nurse practitioners, and 3 physicians. We're also laser focused on building the housing that's required to accommodate a growing population. In the past several years, our government has delivered over 2,000 new homes in Surrey, many of these providing affordable housing to low-income families, seniors, and people with disabilities. And one upcoming project that will be particularly important to the community is an 8-story, 358-student housing building at KPU. This $143 million investment will allow students to spend less time commuting and more in their community focusing on their studies. All of this indicates the priority, the importance of Surrey to the province of British Columbia. We've also been doing a significant amount of work to tackle housing affordability, and we've got some news on that. A national report by rentals.ca indicates that BC is leading the way in the decline of rental rates across the country. Average rental rates have decreased by 4.9% in British Columbia, but Surrey has seen an even more significant decrease, with an average apartment rents falling by 11%. This will make it easier for your businesses to attract and retain employees, puts more cash in people's pockets to spend locally. Because when we support people and communities, we help businesses to grow. So I want to take the opportunity to thank you today. Thank you for the work that you're all doing here in Surrey and south of the Fraser, because your communities are driving incredible economic growth. And we're committed to being a part of the solution when it comes to that growth that is happening here in Surrey and White Rock. Our job is to build the transportation networks that support that growth, connecting people to opportunity, moving goods, and ensuring that this region remains an engine in our province's economy. Through focused investments, we're building a system that keeps pace with a fast-growing region and positions local businesses to thrive. Together, we're building a transportation system that supports safe communities, strong businesses, and a prosperous future. And I just want to end by saying that every time I come to this community, I'm always amazed by what I see in terms of the change, in terms of the growth, in terms of the opportunity, because Surrey soon will be the largest city in the province of British Columbia, and we need to make sure it's got the infrastructure that it needs: transportation, health, education, housing, and we're going to do just that. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak to you today.
Thank you, Minister Farnworth. I'm glad Surrey is your favorite community. It's mine too. Mayor Locke's favorite, and we're not biased at all. All right. So I will begin with some questions, and then I'll turn to the audience because I know you have your own. We have a microphone here in the middle of the room. Please state your name, company, and ask your question. And remember, only one question. I run a tight ship. I'll put you to the back of the line for your second question. We're not here for a conversation unless I'm running it. I have the microphone. I have the conch, with the conch shell.
You could be speaker in the House.
There you go. You need some help, you just let me know. All right, so question number 1. I like to get to know people beyond just your political portfolio. You have been in politics for a long time. Tell why. Why did you decide to do this very hard job?
Actually, it's interesting. It was over a land use issue. I was set to become, studying to become a geologist. I've always enjoyed mining, and I spent a year in Australia, and I worked for a mining company. I worked on exploration, I worked on a drill rig, and I came back and was pursuing studies to become a geologist. And I grew up in Port Coquitlam, and at the time it was called Colony Farm, and it supplied much of the produce, dairy for Riverview. And the government of the day shut that down, and then they were planning on building on it. And I grew up there, and my brothers and buddies and I, we would go fishing at the Coquitlam River, and I just thought this was wrong. And I rather naively thought, well, I'm going to run for city council because I think this is wrong. And I remember I went up, and I told the story at this individual's funeral. He was the city clerk at the time in Poco, and he lived just up the street. And I went up and I asked him, I said, well, if you wanted to run for city council, what would you do? And he told me, and so I did all the things, put my name in, I ran for city council, and I got elected. But the thing is this, I was 24 years old at the time, and his name was Ron Freeman, and he didn't laugh, he didn't say you're too young, he didn't discourage me, he thought it was really great. Because if he'd have done any of those other things, I would have been out of there like that, and I wouldn't have given it a second thought. And so that's how I ended up on the city council. I was still going to university, and then the retiring MLA said, why don't you run? And I did. And Colony Farm is now a regional park. It's something that every time I go down there, I go, if nothing else, that's something that I did. And that's how it all happened.
I love that story. See? It's your origin story, and it's your purpose. So I like that. Thank you for sharing that. And good on that mentor, the clerk, for taking you seriously, because we need young people's voices at the table, right?
Now I'm much older.
We need wisdom too. We need age. All right. So I have some questions for you, and I think you know your portfolio very well, and I'm sure you touched on a few things in your speech. But when you think about transportation investments, improving the reliability factor that really businesses depend on, when you think about the reliability and moving the people back and forth, what do you think you can do to improve that?
I think there's a number of things that the province can do in terms of improving reliability. One is working with local governments and regional governments and businesses, identifying what are the key priorities that need to be addressed. So right now, for example, we've got the federal government doing the nation-building projects. That impacts not just this region, but all over the province. And so part of our decision-making process can be, how does that tie into provincial priorities? How does that tie into local priorities? And start identifying what those key pieces of infrastructure that are going to make the improvements that will allow those kinds of projects, that will allow businesses at the local level to benefit from specific investments. That's why, obviously Highway 1 is crucial. The tunnel project, all of those kinds of big projects are things that the province can undertake, and as I said, tying in with what the federal government's doing. And just on that, the ports, the larger than the 5 ports combined, it's going to be crucial, but so are other ports in the province. And so it's also about improving the transportation, the rail links, to be so that we can get things moving as smoothly and with as less congestion as possible.
Okay, so let's talk about this. We have CN Rail, their largest yard in BC. It is the largest, right? Yeah, because Prince George is the second. So that's in Surrey. Last stop before the Port of Vancouver. We have the Port of Vancouver here in the room, and we have DP World, who runs the terminal on the Fraser River here. So when you think about all of these great employers, and also supporting our supply chain, getting to Canada's biggest port, you've got to look at it regionally, and you have to look at it provincially. So beyond the tunnel, what else are you thinking about?
Well, part of it depends on where goods are coming from and where goods are going. And so with the significant investment that you're seeing right now in the northwest of British Columbia, particularly around LNG and the mining interest that's currently underway, and there's about $50 billion of final investment decisions expected this year. It's what needs to happen along those corridors so that you're not having to look at alternative routes such as shifting them down this way, because it makes more sense to be going that east-west on that route. So there's work being done there. In terms of CN, and in the case of Port Coquitlam, where I've got CP's largest railway yard, it's how do you make sure you've got the capacity here on the lower mainland, or close enough to the lower mainland, to be able to accommodate the growth that they're seeing. And so you hear terms such as an inland port, for example. That's something that the province is particularly interested in, and working with both CN and CP in how do we identify the areas where that needs to take place. There's been interest from a number of communities, Prince George, for example, and they are on that route that goes up to Prince Rupert and what I believe will become another port in the future, which is the one up in Stewart. At the same time, I think there's a demand in the federal government, and the discussions I've had with them and the transportation minister and the minister of infrastructure is how do we also find where's the location that would be required for an inland port that is closer to the lower mainland, for example. So that's the kind of work that's underway.
Well, Surrey has more industrial land, or what we call job enabling land, than any other city in the province. And of course, we have the border and great logistics and manufacturing facilities, as well as tech and research. So I think Surrey should be perhaps on your list. Yes,
It
Mayor?
very much is.
Okay, great. I'd like to talk about the Stalawasan Bridge. So every single person I talk to says, why isn't it the 6 lanes? Why isn't it the 6 lanes?
Well, actually, it is 6 lanes.
Okay, why isn't it operating as 6 lanes?
So, 2 things. One, it is actually built for 6 lanes. 2 of those lanes are active transportation routes at this point in time. The reason it is 4 lanes being used as opposed to the full 6 is within the region itself. That's where the support was for. I fully understand Surrey has a different take on it, and I appreciate that. But the other thing that what we want to avoid is on the other side of the river in New West, they don't have that capacity at this point. And so what you would end up with is the lanes, and then they would be merging together, creating another, in essence, choke point as everybody's trying to merge together. Kind of similar as if you're on the number 1 and you come to the cut and you can take the road off that goes to McGill, and then you see people coming in, and then they start trying to merge in, and you get this bottleneck there. So that's why at this time it's still 4 lanes, because on the other side it's just got the capacity for 4 lanes, but it is built to 6 lanes. And at some point in the future, I fully expect that it will be 6 lanes through, and at that point, those active transportation lanes will then be replaced with cantilevered onto the side of the bridge. So it has been designed with that in mind.
So what I'm hearing is New West needs to get it together. You heard it here,
said that,
folks.
not me.
We love you, New West. But okay. So let's now talk about the Massey Tunnel, or the Fraser River Tunnel. There's a lot of conversation. I have my own opinions about why it is a tunnel, and so I'd like to talk to you about that. We've gone back and forth here. We just want something. Let's be clear there. But why the tunnel and not a bridge?
Okay. The primary reason why it's a tunnel, not a bridge, is that is actually the project that the Region Metro was in favor of. They had rejected the 10-lane bridge. That's actually why it is the 8-lane tunnel. It will have the same draft as the existing tunnel. By that, for the ability of ships to go under. It's supported by the port, the region, and one of the 2 communities initially, and both communities are fine with that now.
You can tell you've been in politics for a while. These are good answers. I'm going to have to get tougher on you. Who wants to join me at the microphone in the middle? Anybody? Work your way up there. Okay, work your way up there. I see Scott Wheatley coming from Cloverdale. Scott and I toured the new hospital. It's not ready, of course, but we've been out there and really excited about that project. Okay, over to you, Scott.
Thanks very much, Jocelyn. Scott Wheatley, Cloverdale District Chamber of Commerce. I just want to start my question off with a comment about working with the TransLink team. They've done a great job working with me to improve transit down into Campbell Heights, where I have many members who really want more bus service, and they're doing their best to accommodate. But that sort of rolls into my actual question is, I have members down there asking for a regional airport. What's it going to take? I just want to be the first one to drop it. What's it going to take to get a regional airport down in the Campbell Heights area so I can get some movie studios built? Thank you.
Okay. When it comes to airports, come under federal jurisdiction, and I'm not doing that as trying to push it aside. That is the reality. And so I think it would be a case of the province working with the federal government to say, hey, we think there's an opportunity here for an airport. I think there's a number of things that would have to be taken into account, and that is, I know there's an existing airport in Langley, a small one, and then you've got the one at Pitt Meadows, and the question would be, would those be the ones, or would you be looking at something brand new? As the provincial minister to advance this, I would have to have a better understanding of exactly the location and where and the size and things like that.
Ideally in the Campbell Heights area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so first it means, if you ask me right now, give me your idea, send it to me, and then I am in a position to be able to start to talk with the feds and see if there's some interest and what it would take to move things further.
Yeah, I will. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. I saw another question. You can work your way up there, and I will. Okay, we're close enough. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your question.
Thank you very much, Minister Farnworth. It's good to see you again. I used to live in your riding. We've talked before. My name is Heather Scott. I'm with the Langley Community Health and Hospital Foundation, and I'm here with a gracious invite. Thank you from the Bluestone Group. I was very delighted to hear you speak of healthcare, Minister. And while on behalf of Langley, Delta, White Rock, we're all very pleased to see the new Cloverdale Hospital coming online, I have to say that when we consider the rapid growth of our population, that Fraser Health and Fraser South specifically is the most rapidly growing population in all of BC. And in addition, that Fraser Health is the least bedded for all of BC, which means we have fewer beds per 1,000 than anybody in the province, and it's worse at its worst in Fraser South. And so when we consider the rapidly growing population of Surrey, the new beds won't change that number. And so I can't underline how important it is for you to continue to speak on our behalf, please, at the table, at Cabinet for healthcare in Fraser South. Particularly distressing is the repacing of Burnaby Hospital, Delta.
I'm going to have to get you to get to your question, please.
Thank you. My question is, how are projects prioritized? How are they prioritized by your ministry? Because I know you can't speak on behalf of the health authority, the health ministry. How are they prioritized, funded through Treasury Board, and how does your ministry work with the new Ministry of Infrastructure to make things happen?
Okay, there's quite a lot there. So let me just deal with the health part very quickly. You're absolutely right. Health is I would say, the number one priority in terms of where government spending goes. It's the largest item in the provincial budget. We fully recognize, the growth that's taking place. That's why you are seeing significant investments in hospitals. I was just this morning before I came here, and one of the key initiatives that we are undertaking to reduce the pressure in terms of the emergency rooms is the creation of the urgent primary care centers that we're starting to that are open 7 days a week. And people can go there instead of having to go to an emergency ward, particularly for the small things that would often keep them, waiting for hours. And the reality is because other people more serious are being taken care of. So those are part and parcel of of how we deal with that. And I know in the Langley area and in Surrey and in the Tri-Cities, we are opening them up, and there's more going to be done that. So fully get you on the health side. How are things dealt with in terms of the ministry and Treasury Board? So what happens in the run-up to the budget preparations? It starts like literally when the previous budget's tabled and finished. Over the coming months, I start looking at what are the key areas in my ministry that we need to be focusing on. So there's projects that are already underway. I will have had the funding for those for this year's envelope. At the same time, it's identifying additional priorities for next year as projects come to an end, and we want to have new ones coming on board. So it'll be, we start to have discussions at the cabinet level. We start to hear from the Ministry of Finance what they think the outlook is looking like. Treasury Board in the Ministry of Finance will be doing its analysis, and they will come back and start giving us instructions, what they call an invitation, If you don't get an invitation, that's not a good thing. An invitation to present to Treasury Board on what your priorities are for the coming year, and starting to get a sense of, okay, let's say, for the example, I went forward and said, I've got $1 billion worth of asks. I'll start to have to go to Treasury Board and start to justify each one of those. Every other ministry is doing the same thing. And then they may come back and say, you know what, you have to reduce your ask or your budget or whatever by, they may give you a 10% target, a 20% target, a 25% target. And so you have to come back and you whittle down within the ministry what your key priorities are with what you're hearing from Treasury Board, and then you go to Treasury Board and they do the final thing, and then Treasury Board will decide, and that's how it starts. That's how it gets put into the budget, and that process is done usually by the end of December, goes in sometimes into January, and that's pretty much how it's done.
Okay, thank you. So what can you tell us? Let's move to transit. Let's talk about bus rapid transit up and down King George. How is the province supporting this project, and when can I expect to take my first bus ride there?
That's top priority for us as a province. It's top priority for TransLink. That's where this past year, with the agreement we've signed with TransLink, where we provided $329 million to deal with the operating deficit over the next 3 years, and to allow some expansion with the investment plan, is why we've committed to providing a new funding mechanism, an additional financial tool for TransLink to be able to provide the kinds of services that we're talking about. And then the province is also there in terms of some of the capital funding. So right now, when it comes to the funding of TransLink, they have a number of financial tools. One is obviously property tax. Two is parking tax. And the third big one has been the fuel tax. But what we've seen over the last number of years is the fuel tax has been declining for a number of reasons. One, more fuel-efficient vehicles, and two, the growth of electric vehicles. And so that's not enough anymore. So we've made a commitment that in 2027 we will be putting in place, and that will fully come on for the beginning of 2028, a new funding tool that will allow TransLink to be able to raise the funds it needs on its operating side of things, and to start to put the investment plan in place. At the same time, the province recognizes that significant capital investment has to continue taking place. And so under the current financial arrangement, you've got 40% by the province, 40% by the federal government. I have a few issues with the federal government, and that's where I'm meeting with the Minister of Infrastructure and the Minister of Transportation on that. They've got the $1.5 billion transit fund for TransLink over 10 years. That's not really, it sounds a lot, but it's not. But in terms of the BRT, that's one of the key priorities I know for Surrey. It's a key priority for us, and we want to get it underway.
Can you tell us about the funding tool? Would you like to announce all the details here?
No, I can't not do that at this point. The ministry is working on that, and that will be something that we're working on. We work with the Mayor's Council at TransLink, but you can expect we've made a commitment that it will be in place. It will start to be in place in 2027, and so closer to that date, you will know.
All right, we're watching, we're waiting. So looking ahead.
I can tell you one thing.
Yes.
It will not be road pricing, because I often get asked, oh, you're going to do road pricing? And the answer is no, we are not.
Okay, great. Well, you can come here and do an announcement. We'll have you. Okay. Looking ahead 10 to 20 years, what do you see as the biggest transportation priorities for the South of the Fraser region? And how can the business community play a role in shaping those investments?
Okay. If the mayor of Poco was here, I'd say SkyTrain to Poco, but he's not, so I won't. See? I think
Wrong room. More SkyTrain here.
So I think it's ensuring that we get the major infrastructure projects in place that are meeting the growth needs of the community. So that means transit-oriented developments along transit routes. It means ensuring that our key arterial corridors, we have dealt with and been able to deal with the pinch points that are invariably along the way. I mean, we've got Highway 1 going along right now. There's a lot of work being done along the route within Surrey on the Fraser Highway. It's making sure that wherever there are choke points, that we're able to dealing with them. It's making sure that Surrey's got the transit infrastructure that it needs to accommodate the significant growth that is continuing to take place. It's basically like, it's not just a case of catching up, it's being in sync, if you like, with the growth and development that's taking place. And then linking our the major infrastructure projects that are being done on a national basis, whether it's Roberts Bank 2, for example, the expansion of the Port of Vancouver, that they're working in a way that allows for seamless movement and efficient movement throughout the region, but also interconnecting with the province. It's also recognizing that at a very local level, issues like Campbell Heights, where people are working and seeing an emerging tech center, they're getting that local transit that's needed to get their workers to and from their place of work. And I think it comes back to something that's often been talked about, which is that a transit system, if it's extensive, accessible, people will use it. And I think that's one of the big challenges that we've got. If you want to reduce congestion, give people the alternative to be able to take. And we've seen it work in many different areas right now, particularly on the SkyTrain system as it is.
Well, it's a more competitive environment for business if they have those transit options. If you're in Europe, it's actually faster, oftentimes, to use transit. Here in Surrey, it's still not quite there, so we need to see more happening. But also, the road network also is important with our supply chain and moving people around. Minister, are there any final words that you have for the audience here that you'd like people to take with them?
First off, thanks for the opportunity to talk to you today. And I know that there are often, disagreements between the province and local government, or and sometimes on the news it seems that that there's a lot of negativity. The reality is, there's a very strong working relationship on so many issues that often don't make it on the evening news, for example. And we know that this community is soon going to pass Vancouver, and that it needs the attention in terms of the infrastructure, not just transportation, but social infrastructure, as do other communities on the Lower Mainland. And we want to make that happen. I know the mayor and I have sometimes been at odds, but you know what? We actually do have a good working relationship, and that's something that people often don't see. But we've got a good relationship with Surrey. We want to keep that. This community is the future in terms of the Lower Mainland, and it's a real it's a kick being in this ministry, watching stuff get built. When you go over the new Stoll Awesome Bridge and when it was being built and standing on it and seeing the old Patola Bridge, and you go, this thing is massive, right? And or when you see what's happening along the Fraser Highway at 152nd and those huge pylons coming out, and you realize this is going to be carrying thousands and thousands of people, and the economic activity coming from that is going to be fantastic. So I just want to leave you with Surrey matters. It's important, and we know that.
And we know that too. Thank you, Minister. A round of applause. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, it's also my pleasure to thank our sponsors who we couldn't do this without, the Vancouver Fraser Port Authority. Round of applause for these guys. CN and the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association, thank you so much. And our pillar partners, Aspira Retirement Living, Focus College, and the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan. And guys, you know what? We have more events. Imagine that. My team, they just love to work really hard. This is what's going on. April 9th, we have our new members breakfast. If you haven't been yet, it is a lot of fun. We also have our Surrey and White Rock Women in Business Awards on April 16th. We will be featuring the Dragon, Manjeet Minhas, as our keynote speaker, so get your tickets. April 21st, we have a roundtable discussion with the new CEO of ICBC. And on April 24th, We have the Surrey Industry Bus Tour. Have you been on that? It is so much fun. Seriously, sign up for that. You'll see so many amazing businesses, and we've been hosting this for 15 years now. So, for more details, visit our website, swrbot.com. Thank you all for attending. Thank you, Minister Farnworth, for being here. Make it a great business day, everyone.